Hello, it's Sonia here with The Pretty Stitch. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time joining me, I'm so happy to have you here. So today we are going to be making a sweater scarf, or as I like to call it, a slarf. It's not what I'm going to name it, but I've been joking around with that. And to do this, I am using a J hook or a 6mm hook. Now with this project, you could use any yarn just about, or any size hook. I'm going to show you a tutorial on how to make one to fit your size. So the yarn I am using for this is number 3 yarn, but it feels kind of heavier, and it is Bernat Baby Sport. It's a big guy, so this is going to require quite a bit of yardage. So we have, I'm trying to find where's the yardage on here. I know it's on here somewhere. Here we go. Yes. So it has 1,077 yards or 984 meters. So yes, depending on the size that you need to make, you're definitely going to need to use a lot of yardage for this. So it's a very pale blue color. It almost looks white on here, but it's very pretty. It's very soft, and I think it's going to look really nice for this project. So to get started for this, what you're going to need to do is we are going to be making the sleeves, like it's like a big cuff for the sleeve. So to do that, so here's my arm. So you're going to need to measure, I tried to zoom out a little bit. So you're going to need to measure like from here to here for the cuff. So you're going to make a chain that's going to fit that. So I went ahead and made my chain. My chain is 37. So what I just chained and laid, sorry about that. I just chained and laid my arm down to see if it was long enough here. So slipping and sliding all over the place, but here we go. And you can definitely see it's definitely long enough to fit my forearm there. So it's like a big giant cuff that we're making. So let's get started on row 1 here. And we're going to do a ribbing, and it's one of my favorite ribbings. I think it's really, really nice. And you could do any type of ribbing you want. This is just one of my favorites. It's really stretchy. It looks really nice, and I just really like it. So we're going to work on the back bump of the chain, and in the second bump from our hook, we're going to be working a stitch, like I think it's called a half slip stitch. It's a combination of a slip stitch and a half double crochet. So we have our yarn over on here. We're going to work in that back bump of our chain. We have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over, and we're going to pull through all 3. Usually what you do is for a half double crochet, you pull through 1 and then you pull through 3, but we're going to pull through all 3 from the start. So it's similar to half double crochet, but it's just a little bit shorter, and we're just going to work that all the way across. So I ended up working 37 chains, and so at the end of this row I will have 36 half slip stitch here for my first row. So you might have a different number. It depends on the type of yarn you're using, your hook size. That will determine, how many stitches you may have. So this is just like a formula that you can use to customize to make your own sweater, or your own like sleeve scarf, sweater scarf. It's a scarf with sleeves. So I'm going to keep going, working my half slip stitch all the way across, and I will meet you back. Okay, so here is my row 1. So for row 2, you're going to chain 1, which I've already done. We're going to turn our work, and we are going to work in those back loops all the way across. So if you're not sure what the back loop is, let me show you. Alright, so this is the top of our stitches. It looks like chains, and if you're looking at it, it also looks like each chain looks like a letter V on its side. So here is one leg of that V, here is the other leg. So the leg that's closest to you, this one here, that would be considered the front loop. The leg that's farther away from you, so that one is right here, that's considered the back loop, and that is the one we want to work in. So in the very first stitch, working in the back loop, and it does help to have your stitches so that you're looking right on top of them so that you can see where to work. So right in that back loop there, we're going to slip stitch, and as you can see, I made that kind of loose. You do want your slip stitches to be on the looser side. So we're going to slip stitch all the way across. So that's kind of why I chose a larger hook, because of the type of stitch that we're doing. It just makes it a little bit easier because slip stitch has an easy time of getting really tight. So we don't want that. You just want a nice relaxed stitch. And we're just going to slip stitch all the way across for row 2 here. So I will have 36 slip stitch because I started off with 36 stitches for row 1, and we're going to continue with the same amount of stitches. So I'm going to keep going, working my row 2. So there is row 2. So let's work row 3. We're going to chain 1, turn our work, and we're going to go back to working that half slip in the back loop so you can see I have my work so that I'm looking right on top of those stitches so I can see that back loop very easily, and working that half slip. And I'm going to do that all the way across. So what you're going to do is you're going to repeat rows 2 and 3 until this will fit around like a cuff. So it's going to be all the way around like that, and then we will attach the ends, and it's almost an invisible seam. That's why I love this stitch pattern, and it's going to be a very nice flexible stitch. It doesn't seem like it right now, and it might seem a little tedious to do it this way, but the result is so pretty that I just really love this method for crocheted ribbing. It looks really similar to knitted ribbing, and it behaves similarly to knitted ribbing because knitted ribbing is very flexible. And some crochet ribbings, like let's say single crochet all in the back loop, which you could definitely do that. I mean, if you don't like this ribbing, you can incorporate whatever ribbing you like. This is just to give you an idea on the construction and how to make one of these. And there's different ways of making this. This is just, one way. There's plenty of other tutorials and different methods. Or this one is just a way that I like, and also I like this way because you can really easily make this to fit, your body type, because we are not one size fits all, and with this type of design you really can't make it one size fits all. So I'm going to go work a bunch of rounds and what you're going to do is you're going to end on a row 3. So you're going to end on a half slip row, and then we will attach it to make, it's going to be like a tube. So I will meet you back when this is wide enough. Alright, so here is the cuff of part of my sweater scarf here. And I worked 35 rows. So you can see this is nice and stretchy. It's flexible. So now we actually need to turn it into a cuff. So to do that, so you want to end on a half slip stitch row, which I did. And I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to turn my work. So what we're going to do is you want to fold it. So you're just folding it like that. And you're going to work on the ends of row 1 here, and your last row that you made. So in the ends of row 1, you're going to insert your hook in the front loop, and then your last row, you're going to insert your hook in the back loop. So we are working that final slip stitch row, and we're just going to slip stitch those guys together. So my next stitch, front loop of my first row, back loop of my last row. And we're gonna, oops, I went through both loops. Let's not do that. And what this is going to do is it will create an almost invisible seam, which is really nice. I mean, probably somebody that's not a crocheter wouldn't really notice it. And that's why this is one of my favorite ribbings, because of that. It just has a lot of nice stretch to it. It looks nice, and you don't need to sew it, and you have almost the invisible seam. Now with this project, we will be doing a little bit of sewing. I mean, I guess you could not sew, but I think it's going to look better for sewing. I'll try it without sewing. We'll see. We'll see. I have this idea, and I started working on a prototype of just scraps of yarn, but then it was going pretty well, so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to jump in and use the actual yarn that I wanted to use for this project. So I'm still working out some of the construction issues. Not that they're really issues, but how I want to do it, I guess is how I should say. Alright, so I'm going to keep going, stitching that across, and then I'll meet you back. Okay, so I finished stitching across. We are not going to cut our yarn yet. So this is, so you can see that it is almost an invisible seam there. And it really does mimic like knitted ribbing. I think it's really, really nice. It's comfortable to slide on, because it will slide on like that. So what we need to do next is we need to figure out how many stitches, because we're going to single crochet around the part of our cuff, but we need to figure out how many stitches we need. So you need to figure out how wide you want the main part of your sweater scarf to be. So here I drew a little picture. Please excuse the picture. I am not good at drawing. That's why I crochet. So this pitiful looking drawing here is showing the scarf how, you know, if it would crisscross. So what you need to do is work a chain of how long you want this part to be. So I wanted mine to be about a foot wide. So that was 40 stitches. So I am going to need to chain 41, but it's going to be 40 stitches across. So if you just want to make a chain and kind of just, you know, measure it on your body of how wide you want it to be, go do that. Then just tuck that number inside your brain, and then what you'll do is you're going to work a chain that's an odd number, but the stitch pattern is an even number. So I'm going to work 41 chains, but it's going to be 40 stitches. So that means that I need to work 40 stitches around my cuff here. And we're going to single crochet around. So I'm going to work 40 single crochet as evenly around as I can. So I've worked my first single crochet, and I'm just going to continue squeezing in my single crochet as neatly as I can. So your cuff might be wider, it might be smaller, it just depends. Everyone's body type is different. So that's why I like to try to create patterns that will, you can make it to fit your size. So I'm going to keep going, working my 40 single crochet around. All right, so I worked my 40 single crochet around. So I'm actually not going to join. I'm going to leave it split like that, and you'll understand later as we go along in the pattern. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut our yarn. Now in my first prototype I did it where I just started crocheting around, but then how would I attach it on the other side and have it look exactly the same? That was the dilemma that I was having, so I decided to do it like this because I want both sides to look the same. So what you'll need to do is you will need to work 2 cuffs exactly the same as this one. So I chained 37, worked 36 stitches, and I worked 35 stitches and then joined for row 36 to turn it into a circle, and then I worked those 40 single crochet around, which I will need to do for the other one. But right now I'm going to show you how we're going to work the body of the scarf. So as I said, I am going to work 40 stitches because I want mine to be about a foot wide. And so what I'm going to do is I need to chain 41. So the amount of stitches that you choose needs to be an even number, and then you just add 1. So let's say you wanted yours to be like your chain was, you know, it's 50 stitches, you would chain 51. Or if it was 36 stitches, you would chain 37. If it was 38 stitches, you would chain 39, so on and so forth. So I'm going to go and work my 41 chains here, and I will meet you back. All right, so here are my 41 chains that I have worked. And so we're going to work row 1. And row 1 will be our setup row, and then row 2 will be the remainder of the pattern. So we're going to work in that back bump of the chain, just like we did on the cuff. And in the second chain from our hook, we're going to insert our hook, and we're working extended single crochet, one of my favorite stitches. So you're going to insert your hook in that back bump, yarn over, pull up a loop like you'd work a regular single crochet. We're going to chain 1, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through the remaining 2. So we worked 1 extended single crochet. We're going to do that across. So in the next back bump, you'll insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, chain 1, yarn over, pull through 2, and we just do that all the way across. So I'm going to have 40 extended single crochet. Doesn't matter what amount or you have, as long as it's an even number. So if it's 38, if it's 42, 44, whatever, it's fine. Just make sure that it's an even number and that the number matches the end of your cuff here. So I have 40 stitches, so I'm going to have 40 stitches here, because eventually we're going to attach this around to create the sweater part. So we need to have the same amount of stitches so that it will work. So I'm going to keep going, working my 40 extended single crochet, and I will meet you back. Okay, so here is my first row of extended single crochet. I have 40 stitches. So let's begin row 2. And row 2 will be the repeat for the rest of the pattern. So we're going to chain 1, and we're going to turn our work. In our first 2 stitches, we're going to work extended single crochet. And so what we're going to do next is our next stitch, we are still going to work extended single crochet, but we're going to work it in the front loop only. If you turn your work like that, you can see the loops a lot more easily, and insert your hook just in that front loop and work extended single crochet. And then our next stitch, we are going to work in the back loop. So we're going to alternate across working front loop, back loop, until we get to our last 2 stitches. So here's the front loop, here is the back loop, and it just creates a really pretty texture with this stitch. So sometimes you don't have to be complicated to achieve a beautiful stitch. Just using some simple techniques and you can really produce a pretty result. So front loop, back loop. So I'm going to keep going, working front loop, back loop across until I get to my last 2 stitches. Okay, so I worked my front loop, back loop across. I have 2 stitches left. So in those last 2 stitches, we're working in both loops and extended single crochet. And there we go. So you can already see how pretty that looks. All right, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work, and then rows 3 for however long you will need. You are just going to be repeating row 2. So on each end you work 2 extended single crochet in both loops, and then the front loop, back loop in the middle of your row. So it's 4 stitches with regular extended single crochet, and then the rest of your stitches are front loop, back loop. So I'm going to keep going here. I've got a lot of crocheting to do until this is long enough. And I'll also need to make my other cuff as well. So I will meet you back when I have all the pieces, and then we can put it together. So what you're going to want to do is you want to try on your sleeve, and then you're going to take your scarf and you will drape it around your shoulders like so, and I'm just kind of straightening it out, and then I'm crossing it over like how I might want to wear it, and this will help me to see if I need to work a couple more rows, and then it'll be attached there at the end, and we're going to stitch that around. So you can kind of gauge, you know, if that's going to be long enough for you. I think it's almost long enough on here, so I just need to work a few more rows. Alright, so I am almost done my sweater scarf here. So as you can see, I already attached one of the sleeves on here, and so now we need to do the other side. So I'm going to show you what I did. So you're going to take your end of your scarf, and I ended up working 162 rows, and you will have seen how to determine how long you'll need your sweater scarf as I showed you earlier. So I've got the end of my row, and I want to make sure it's not twisted. So this is going to be the side, if they're reversible, so it doesn't matter what side you're working on. All right, so you're going to grab your other sleeve, and what I did was I slip stitched around, so I didn't even sew it. I mean, you could sew it if you wanted to, but slip stitching worked out really, really well. So I kind of tested it on the other side to see if it would work, and it worked really well. Okay, so what you're going to want to do with your sleeve is you're going to want to turn that inside out. So this is my right side. I'm going to turn it inside out. There we go. So we've got it inside out, and I'm going to get my yarn. So this is the side I'm going to be stitching. So I'm going to start on the correct end there. So I'm going to take my hook, and I've got my yarn. I'm going to insert it into the single crochet on my sleeve, and then I'm going to insert it onto the end of my scarf here. Like that. I'm going to attach my yarn. So I just like to lay my yarn on my hook, pull her through, and now we are attached. We're ready to go. I'm going to chain 1, and I'm just going to slip stitch right back in there just to anchor it right in that first stitch. And I'm going to continue to just slip stitch around. So I have 40 stitches on the end of my scarf, and I have 40 stitches that I stitched around my sleeve. So it should match up perfectly. So I am going to keep going. And then when I get to the end, I'm not going to cut my yarn yet. I mean, you could, but I'll explain as we'll do this step first. So as you can see, I'm just slip stitching around. Now, if you prefer, you can certainly sew it. And what I even did with the other side to save on ends is, obviously you saw me make this first sleeve, and then I didn't make the other one right away. What I did was I made my first sleeve, I stitched my scarf, and then when I was done working on my rows, then I worked on the other sleeve, and when I got to the end where you slip stitch the end, both ends together, I didn't cut my yarn. I just went ahead and I just slip stitched across to save on an end. So you could do that if you wanted to, or you could just make both sleeves right away and cut the yarn. It's okay. You're not gonna have too many extra ends to weave in, but I was trying to save on some ends, so that's what I did. All right, I'm gonna keep going. Okay, so I slip stitched around my sleeve, as you can see. So here we are. So what I did on the other side here is I just stitched a little bit up on here. And that's just so it's a little bit more comfortable for wearing. When I tried it on, I don't know, it kind of bothered my arms, so I just thought if I just stitched it a little bit more so it kind of goes over the elbow, it just was a little bit more comfortable. So what I did is I just worked 10 slip stitch here. So it doesn't matter what number you work, I just stitched some ends together. Just do the same on the other side. So I did 10 stitches here. I want to do 10 here. And what I did too is, you can see there's kind of like a gap going on there. So for my first stitch, I kind of just cleaned that up as I just kind of went in this, I just grabbed some loops, just kind of eyeballed it right there. Just kind of did that and then went in there and just did that just to clean that up a little bit, and it closed that up. So now I'm going to work 9 more stitches. So that was stitch 1. So I'm just going to go and work on these ends here. And again, I'm just kind of going in there. So that's stitch 2. And you can just match it up to the other side. Now again, you don't have to do this. I just found it to be a little bit more comfortable. So I've stitched one sleeve on, I've tried it on, and then to see if you want to sew where the elbow is, as you can see, I'm just kind of holding it there if you want to see how many stitches you need. And it's probably about 2 inches that I want to stitch on there. I said sew, stitch. You could sew it as well. And that's just a good way to determine, how much you need to stitch so that it fits comfortably for you. And then of course you'll do the same for the other sleeve as well. Okay, so here's where I stitched across, and here is my other sleeve. I just wanted to match it up. So here we go. There's the 2 ends, and it matches up pretty well. So I'm going to cut my yarn. So there we go, and now we are all set. We are done. So obviously I'm going to turn this, get this yarn out of here. So you're going to want to turn your sleeves right side out. So there you can see how we stitched, and it looks nice and neat. And then here is where we stitched here, and again that does look very neat and tidy. And here is the other side, so let's turn this one inside or right side out. And obviously I'll need to weave in my ends, but I don't have too many. So here's the other side, and we need to focus. There we go. So again, it looks nice and neat. And then you'll be all set for wearing, and I'll show you a little tutorial on how to wear it at the end. But I hope you enjoyed this project, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. So for this project, I think there's 3 different ways that you could wear it. So the first way could be just a regular scarf. You know, you just wrap it around your neck however you normally like to wear scarves. And then one of the other ways is the crisscross method in the front. So what you would want to do is you're going to drape it around your neck, and you want to make sure that both of the ends are kind of even. You're going to slide your arms in one. So you're going to crisscross it in the front and then slide your arms in, and then you'll just adjust it until you have it how you like. You can pull it up on your arms to adjust, just how ever you would like it. Just straighten it out. And then you're good to go. So the other way that you would wear this is, again, you're going to make sure that the sleeves are even. You're going to then drape it in the front and then have the sleeves in the back. So you have it around your neck and you have the sleeves in the back. You're going to cross it in the back, bring one sleeve forward, and then put your arm in the sleeve, and then bring the other sleeve forward. And then you're going to want to loosen it around your neck, and you just kind of adjust it and pull it down until it is draped over your shoulders. And again, you just adjust it until you have it how you like. Just move the sleeves around however you need to. And then you are all set for wearing.